All right, hey everyone, Dylan from the Sleeping with the Numbers podcast here. I wanted to do a video, kind of a DFS 101, where I go through my process of creating DFS lineups, what the trends say you should do, and basically it's a little, I guess we can call it a course on how to become a better DFS player. Now, for this video specifically, we're going to be focusing on GPP, tournaments, guaranteed prize pool, and so those are the big ones where people are, making $1 million, and that's literally what we're going to look up today. You can see right here, I'm just in the $1 one here because I'm cheaping out right now. I bought my tickets for the When We Were Young festival next year, so a little short on cash right now, but we don't need to get into that. But we're going to talk about how to play tournaments, and the way you play tournaments is different than how you play cash games. Cash games being double ups, head to heads, etc. Those 50-50 type games. The biggest difference between GPP and cash lineups is you really have to care about ownership percentage when you play in these large tournaments. The reason being, and we'll get into some of the analytics here in a second, but the big reason is you need to have a player that 98% of the people, 97%, around there do not have. Because if you have that person in your lineup and they're scoring points, guess what? 97, 98, 99% of the field doesn't have that player, and you're going to be passing them up because you do have that player. Now, first question might come to your mind, well, how do you know? How do you know if a player is going to be low owned? And that is a fantastic question that we have to predict. There's a lot of places that we're going to look at here where you can find their predictions. I personally want to make my own model to see if I can. But for right now, we're going to use what is available to us. I'll show you a free option and then a paid option. And to be honest with you, I don't know if one's better than the other. I have not looked too deeply into that. Maybe that's another video. But you do need to care about roster percentages. And really how I use them is you can only predict so close. And instead of focusing on the numbers themselves, because they're never going to be 100% accurate, I instead kind of group them into like super low owned, medium owned, very high owned. And by that grouping, you get a good idea of what players you need to pop in there to give yourself a low owned player and pass these people up. So I have a lineup here, and at the end of the video, we will construct a GPP lineup using the techniques I'm going to talk about. But I just want to be very broad in this video when I'm teaching you how to play tournament style lineups. I'm going to be using Draftkings. That's what I play on. Started with FanDuel and then drifted to Draftkings. It doesn't matter why, but I feel like I gotta explain, but I moved to Texas. FanDuel wasn't available in Texas at the time, so I moved to DraftKings. Never came back. That's really all it is. But I use DraftKings here, and that's where I'm going to be looking. But remember, the same general guidelines that I give in this video will also apply to FanDuel. Again, very focused on the roster percentages. That will still matter, but let's get into some of the trends that you need to follow. So here, Fantasy Labs, Roto World, Roto Grinders, whatever you want to call them, they have a fantastic tool here called ResultsDB. And what this is a database of every single game. And I say game as in like a DraftKings game, not a game as in like a football matchup. But it's every single matchup. They have the leaderboard. They have everyone's lineups. They have the trends that you should be following. They have the salaries, the percentage ownership, the game, and how many points they put up. And this is a fantastic tool to go and look at after the week is over. Go see, okay, where did I miss? And then use that to try to become better. So I am looking at last week's $20 Millionaire Maker from October 10th, 2022, just to put a date on this video. And this guy named Chev Chelios, I hope I said that right, he won the Millionaire Maker, put up 244.26 points. So looking at his lineup, you had Josh Allen stacked with Gabe Davis. We'll talk about stacks here in a second. Lenny, Alvin Kamara, Godwin, Lockett, K. Doughton, Breece Hall, and the Dallas defense. So let's talk about some of the trends that he followed here and the ones that matter. And again, Results DV has this all lined up here for you. You can just, if you follow this, you're pretty good. Now notice there's check marks and there's X's. Check mark obviously means he followed that trend. X's means he didn't. Some of these trends are more important than others, and we will talk about that. Right now we'll talk about that. Number one, at the top of the list, team stack. That is an absolute must for any GPP lineup. What is a team stack? Pretty simple. It's stacking a quarterback, Josh Allen in this example, with one of his pass catchers, Gabe Davis. That simple. That is all that is. So you have to do that in these lineups. If you are not doing a team stack, don't play. You are throwing money away. Very rare do naked QB lineups win anything large. And we'll go into that data here as well. But I'm focusing on the trends at this time. So team stack, quarterback with a pass catcher. And I say pass catcher, doesn't have to be a wide receiver. Most of the time it will be. It could be a tight end, maybe Mahomes and a Kelsey. That's good as well. Or, maybe you have a running back who is a big pass catcher for their team. In years past, it would have been, Cam Newton and CMC. Not so much anymore, but that's really a big example I thought of here. Maybe Tom Brady and Lenny Fournette. He was catching some passes last year. Alvin Kamara, that's another good one. So if you wanted to stack him with, I guess now it was, red hair, fireball, Andy Dalton. Jesus. Yeah. Okay. So, maybe you would have stacked Andy Dalton with Alvin Kamara. That counts. Alvin Kamara was known to catch a lot of passes. Maybe, again, not so much this year. He's starting to come back. But a pass catcher is who you want to stack your quarterback with. You must do that. If you're not doing that, don't play, please. So game stack is kind of similar, except instead of pairing it with your quarterback, you choose another game and you stack players from that game. So if you think another game is going to go off, you want some pieces in that lineup. And he did exactly that with Alvin Kamara for New Orleans and Tyler Lockett on Seattle. Those teams played each other. And so a game stack is another thing that's pretty heavily correlated with having a big winning lineup in these GPP things. QB pass catcher, exactly what we just talked about. QB stack bring back. So this guy did not do that. But what a QB stack bring back is when you play someone on the opposite team from your team or quarterback stack. So in this example, they were playing the Steelers. It would have been a bring back if you would have put in George Pickens or Najee Harris. Again, normally it's a wide receiver because those guys have pretty high ceilings. But that is what that would have been. He doesn't have any Steelers in this lineup, so he did not follow that trend. Another one that they have here is the running back defense stack, so he didn't do that here. And this one is a newer one. I don't usually go for it. There is some obvious trends there, but I think the correlation is a little bit smaller. For example, he played the Dallas defense. If he wanted to do the running back defense stack, he would have put in Zeke or Tony Pollard, and that would have checked that there. Other thing you want to do, max one running back per game. He did that. Generally, you don't want both running backs in a matchup. Now, everything I'm saying has caveats. You could absolutely play two running backs in the same game. But the trends say don't do that. The correlations say don't do that. You can. Absolutely can. And you might win $1 million doing it that way. But we're focused on the analytics and the statistics here, and they say don't do that. Why? Well, if you think about it, when do they run the ball? I know it depends team by team, who their running back is, etc. But let's just say in general, teams want to run the ball when they're trying to run out the clock. Why do teams want to run out the clock? They're ahead. They're ahead in the game. They don't want their opponent to have much time. So if that is going on, one running back's getting all the work and the other running back is on the sideline. So that's kind of why that correlation exists. Now, you might say, well, hold on. Wouldn't that be the same thing with wide receivers? Sure. But think about it a little bit more. If one team is ahead in the game, their running back's getting the work, the other running back's on the sideline. Of course, the other team's wide receivers are also on the sideline. But when they finally do get that ball back, they're not running it. They're going to be chucking the ball as much as they can to work their way down the field. Now, yes, you can pass it to the running back, of course. But more often than not, that's going to go to a wide receiver. And that's where you get, those garbage time points. So that's kind of the reasoning behind here. And I know I started off this video saying, oh, you got to have low-owned players. You really do. Again, everything has its caveats. He didn't have a quote-unquote low-owned player. I think they considered a low-owned player someone below 5%. And he didn't have that anywhere. His lowest-owned player was Gabe Davis at 7.5. And in this case, that was enough. 92.5% of the field did not have Gabe Davis, and he went off. People were worried about playing Gabe Davis. This was his first game back off injury. He didn't get a ton of receptions, but he torched the Pittsburgh Steelers to put up 35.1 points. So in this case, you really didn't need that low-owned player because you got close enough and he went off. Now, if you had a super low-owned player, maybe like a 1%, 2%er, maybe they put up only 15 to 20 points. But because they're so low-owned, that helps you even more. So that's kind of where that connection is with those points and ownership percentages. We'll look through some of the other weeks, and you'll find that the low-owned player is a pretty common one. Next trend here. Do not play any players against the defense. Why? Well, if those players are scoring, guess who's losing points? Your defense. So if he would have played, so let's keep Dallas in here. If he would have played Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp's putting up points, this defense would be losing points. Now, maybe that's not the best example here because Dallas murdered them because Stafford's bad this season. But again, trends, long-term trends, don't play any players against your own defense. That puts a cap on your ceiling. Cool. So let's look through, let's go through like the top 10 here just to see what trends they're all hitting. Chess 2899 hit all the trends except for the bring back sack. So no Steelers this week, and then did not do the running back defense stack. So no Zeke or Pollard with that Dallas defense. And I bet we see them in here quite a bit, especially because they were 22.7% owned. So again, team stack. Focus on that one. I haven't looked at all these, but I'm almost certain they're all going to have a team stack. This one, all of them except a low-owned player. Fourth place, team stack. Fifth, team stack. They didn't do the game stack, but the team stack of the Bills did so much work, and he triple stacked. He went Diggs, Davis, and Shakir. So he just took all the Bills he could, and they did work. Again, They just put up a ton of points. So you have to stack. So team stack, 6th place, team stack, 7th, team stack, 8th, team stack, 9th, team stack, 10th, team stack. Please team stack. You will never get a high finishing lineup if you are not stacking with the team, with the quarterback, with a pass catcher. So please do that. And to kind of showcase that a little more, there's this reports page. Sorry. There is the team stack page. So the most common team stack. So the most common team stack was Brady and Godwin with 4% stacked. Next, Brady Evans, 3.9. Brady, Evans, and Godwin, 3.8. So that's the entire field. That is everyone. Now, how did that fare in the top 20%? Well, that's pretty good. 4.5% in the top 20 had this stack. How about the top 10%? 4.1%. Still pretty good. The top 1%, only 1.7% of the top 1%, I know that's really annoying to say, had the Tom Brady Godwin stack. It wasn't enough. Who was enough? Well, we can hint right here. If I sort by that, the Bills everywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 went off. 11% of the top 1%. Man, that's so weird to say. Had a double stack here with Diggs and Shakir, because Shakir was super cheap. 7.6% with Allen, Davis, Shakir. 7.3% Allen, Diggs, Davis. Just Allen and Diggs, 7.3. So again, that ended up here. Now you're probably looking a little farther down here. Some other things they show in the team stack here isn't with the QB pass catcher stack. So Kamara and Olave, that worked out. 6% of the top 1% had both of those guys. Fournette and Godwin, and again, this is without Brady, had 4.8% of the top 1%. This is what we care about. When you play these tournaments, you're not playing to cash out and, double your money. You're playing to hit that $1 million. You're playing to hit $10,000. You're playing to really get a massive return on investment. So pay attention to the top 1% for sure, maybe top 10%. Game stacks, let's sort by the top one. Kamara, Lockett, we saw that with the first place team here. Lockett, Olave, 8.8% of the top 1%. Higbee, Dallas defense, that's an interesting one. So this is, I didn't know that would count as a game stack. I usually just think of defenses out here on their own, but there you go. Higbee, Dallas defense, that goes against the grain, right? Because what did we talk about in the leaderboard thing with the trends? Don't play any player against your defense, but 8.2% of the top 1% did that, and it worked out for them. Again, that is not always the case. That may be unique to this week, and we'll look at 2 more weeks here just to kind of lock it in your head with what these trends, how they look. Reports page is also fantastic. You can see some other things that really matter. Using all of your salary, very important. Top 1%. There you go. Over half of the top 1% used all of their salary. And this is going to be super common. You are going to notice this. Half of the top 10%. So all of these lineups that are cashing, they're using most of their salary. And you can see that trend go up as the salary goes up. So what does this kind of tell me? This tells me the bare minimum salary you want to spend is $49,600 in DraftKings. Personally, I almost always try to hit the full salary being spent, the full $50,000. Occasionally, I'll do just $100 to spare, so $49,900. But you got to spend that money. There's a reason the players cost what they do, and this correlates exactly as such as it should. Other thing that's very important here. Who do you put in the flex? You almost never want to put a tight end in the flex. Look how the trend goes down as you get closer to the top 1% of players. You don't do that. Interesting week this time where they had a running back in the flex. So probably like Leonard Fournette or someone like that just went off. For the most part, the analytics say put a wide receiver in your flex. It's a little bit negligible here for this week, but again, we'll go back and look at 2 other weeks just to kind of showcase. All right, so here we're on the week before, so October 3rd, 2022. Again, we're going to do the Millionaire Maker, but these trends are pretty much across all GPP games. So I just look at the biggest one, which is obviously the Millionaire Maker. So looking at the salary again, spend all of it. That's what that's telling you. Here, running back was even better for the top 1%. I'm going to go and look at and see why that was, but big thing, no tight end in the flex. It just isn't worth it. So wide receiver or running back, mostly wide receiver, but let's find out why running back did so well this time around. I'm trying to remember this week, and I don't remember who was doing the work. All right, running back in the flex, Josh Jacobs. There you go. Josh Jacobs, 37.5 points, pretty low owned, 6.1%. In the flex, went off. So yeah, running back worked well this time around. Doesn't always, but it seemed to this time. Really, running back and wide receiver, that's fine for the flex. Tight end, don't do it. And here you can see he hit every single trend we talked about, except for the running back defense stack. So the Eagles and who were they playing? Jacksonville. So maybe like a James Robinson. He didn't do very well that week. Travis Etienne didn't do very well that week. So that's why I say like the running back defense stack, I'm not super into it. I don't try to work around it. But these other ones are very important. Team stack, QB pass catcher. You can do a game back, or it's sometimes called a secondary stack, like we talked about, and then the bring back. So he did the bring back here. So let's run through these for Hoop 2410, who won the Millionaire Maker. So team stack, we got double stack here. Geno, DK, Lockett. Love it. Game stack. Got the Seattle players, and he went for the Detroit players. Jamal, Josh Reynolds, TJ Hawkinson. So he just went in on the Seattle-Detroit game, which, how many points were scored? 53, 93 points scored in that matchup. So he took that game stack, focused in on it, and put in all of those players. QB pass catcher. This is a must. So we got Geno, Metcalf, Lockett, the bring back. He really brought it back. He did Geno, Lockett, Tyler, but he brought it back with Jamal Williams, Josh Reynolds, and TJ Hawkinson. All had a friggin' game. Max, 1 running back per game. He did that. Eckler, Jamal, Josh Jacobs. There's only 1 running back per game. He had a low-owned player. Who was the low-owned player? Philly defense. Little expensive this time around, and usually I don't spend up on a defense. But Philadelphia, 15 points here. Low-owned. And like I said, that 50 points isn't crazy. But 15 points from a low-owned player is fantastic. And that's what you're looking for. No players versus defense. He didn't play any Jags against the Philly defense. Again, salary, $49,900. He only left $100 on the table. So that's, like I said, I usually spend the full $50,000 most of the time. If I can't make it work and I'm trying to force in some players that I really like, then maybe I'll leave $100 on the table. Rarely do I do anything more than that. You also see the sum of ownership percentages. There's some analytics here that tend to say shoot for, I believe it's around like 85 to 90%, up to 120 to 130%. So getting between there is key. Again, you're never going to know what the ownership percentage is until the matchups actually start. All you can do is predict. And we'll get into where to do that when we actually go and make our lineup. Let's go back to the reports and go back just one more week. All right, so this time around, again, full 50,000. You have to spend just about all of your salary, and that's what I shoot for. And then here, we're back to what tends to be the norm, is putting the wide receiver in your flex, and you can see this time it worked out very well. Almost 75%, 3/4 of the top 1% had a wide receiver in their flex. Running back really didn't work out this time around, and tight end never works out. So let's go and check out the leaderboard to see what this top guy did. All right, so Abe Dollars just barely winning the million. 201.88 points. What did he do here? He got a 0 from his defense and still won. And we'll talk about why. How did he do such a thing? If he puts up a goose and still wins $1 million. We'll get to that. So what did he do? Team stack? Sure thing. Lamar and Mark Andrews. Perfect. For his game stack, he went Tampa Bay, Green Bay. So Lenny and Alan Lazard. So we got a game stack in there. QB and the pass catcher, we just said that. Lamar and Andrews. Didn't do any bring back. So he didn't play any New England players against his Baltimore stack. Didn't stack the running back with the defense, so no James Robinson or ETN. Again, I don't focus on that too much. Max, 1 running back per game, sure thing. Dameon Pierce, Leonard Fournette, they're not in the same game. Low-owned player, all right. Lamar, only 2.3% owned. Awesome. And he went off. Alan Lazard, 1.4% owned, 14.5 points. Not crazy. He doesn't have a little flame next to it, but only 1.4% owned. 98.6% of the field did not have Alan Lazard. So anytime he scored, this guy was passing him up. And then even Andrews, very low owned, 2.6%. Put up 28.9 points. Just doing a ton of work. And no players against the defense, so he didn't play any Chargers against the Jacksonville defense. So jumping into that defense, putting up a goose. Like, holy shit. Why does that work? Couple reasons. Reason 1, a lot of people also had the Jacksonville defense. So a lot of people were hurting. A lot of people got that goose. The other thing, very low-owned players. Sum of ownership, only 83.2%. And like I talked about a little bit ago, 80 to about 130% total ownership is where you kind of want to shoot for. Again, you'll never be able to predict exactly on the dot, but you can do as best you can. So that's how that worked. The Baltimore Ravens went off. Mac Hollins went off. 8.8% owned. Super cheap. No Renfro. He did his job, almost 33 points. So those are the trends. Those are what matter. Now, how do you find these trends when you're making your lineup? Because it's great. Hindsight's always 20/20. We're looking at these past results. It's real easy to talk about it then. So what do we do in order to try to actually find these trends while we're making our lineup? So let's go ahead and do that. So I got Draftkings open up here. I'm just going to play the $200,000 first down, 20 entry max. Another thing I want to hit on there. Play tournaments that you can max out in. Because that's what the quote-unquote pros are doing. So that Millionaire Maker, you can have 150 lineups there. But it's $20. Most people don't have that money to spend. What is that? $3,000, I think. Is that right? 20 times 150, 300 times 10, 3,000. Yeah. Most people don't have $3,000 to put in every single week. That's just nuts. So if you can't do that, you can obviously take your shot. There's always a chance. But the odds are going to be against you. So go and play the ones you can max out. So for example, this one, the first down, it's $1. I can spend $20 a week. I can do that. So I'm maxing out my entries. And really, really trying to drive this home. Yes, you can win with a single lineup. It is absolutely possible. But I am all about playing the odds. And if you can do something to up your odds just a little bit, take it. And that's exactly what maxing out your entries does. So let's build a lineup using those trends we just talked about. This is week 6 of the NFL season, 2022 to 2023 season. Again, I'm trying to date this video just in case anyone is watching it in the future. So the first thing I do is I try to pick a game or maybe a couple games that I think are worth getting players from. So how do I decide that? Well, there's a couple places to look. I personally subscribe to the DFS pass from the Fantasy Footballers. Highly recommend listening to that podcast. Both the normal Fantasy Footballers podcast and the DFS podcast. Really, really good insights there. Highly recommend it. So this is a paid version, but you can do all this stuff for free. It just makes it a little easier if you're paying for it. So I'll show how to do it for free as well. But if I'm picking a game, you will usually want a game with a high over-under. Why? Well, Vegas pretty much knows what they're doing. And if they say a game's going to have 54 points, again, it's not guaranteed. It's gambling. That's exactly what this is. But they're pretty good at predicting over there in Vegas. So if Vegas says the Bills-Chiefs game is going to be 54 points, again, don't take that verbatim. Don't take that exactly. But what that should tell you is this is expected to be a high-scoring game. So you want your Bills players. You want your Chiefs players. So that's usually where I start, is by looking at over-unders for matchups. Second highest scoring game, Arizona Cardinals, Seattle Seahawks. That's quite honestly probably the matchup I'm going to target, because I think a ton of people are going to be in on the Bills and Chiefs. I can gain a little bit of leverage by taking a different game. That way, if the Bills and Chiefs game is a dud, I don't have to worry about my players getting, well, no points. So always have that in mind. I like to do a few leverage lineups, but I will obviously also have some Bills-Chiefs lineups as well. That's why you got to max out those entries. You can kind of spread around the lineups you got. You can mix and match, make different unique lineups. So that's usually where I look. And what's nice about the Fantasy Footballers thing here, it also tells you the expected team points here, which is really nice. Now, you can calculate all this on your own, and I'll show you how. Go to any sportsbook, any, sports app. They usually have the odds. All you need is the spread and the over-under, and you can calculate team points. So let's do that real quick. I'm just going to grab the first one I see. Baltimore Ravens, New York Giants. Baltimore is favored by 5.5 points. The over-under is 45. So what do we do? I'm just going to open a spreadsheet here real quick just to show how quick and easy this is. So the total expected points, or the over-under, is 45. The favorite spread is minus 5.5. So what do you do? Make sure I got that right. 5.5, 45. Perfect. So what do? You first take the total and subtract the favorite spread. Well, in this case, I'm going to add it because I already have the negative there. You now have 39.5 points. That 39.5 is split between both teams. So if I take that, divide it by 2, that is the expected points for the New York Giants, the underdog. to get the expected points for the Ravens, the favorites, you take that 19.5 and you add back the amount they are favored by, so the 5.5. So here you have the Giants and Baltimore. Giants expected to get 19.75. Baltimore expected to get 25.25. I know you can't score fractional points. That's not the point. You're trying to figure out the team points, and that's how you do it. So you can do this all manually. You don't have to go and pay for the DFS pass or any other tool. You can do it for free. All you need to know is the total and the spread, and you can calculate the team score. Okay, cool. So I know what games I want to target. And, let's go with the obvious one for this lineup. I want pieces in that Buffalo-Kansas City matchup. So who do I want? Do I want Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback? It's a good question. I usually lean towards the guy who can rush, the guy who's been killing it, Josh Allen, and I'm probably going to do that, so I'm going to pop him in here. And now there's only a $200 difference. The other thing you want to pay attention to is ownership percentage. I am going to take a guess, I have not looked, that both Allen and Mahomes are going to be pretty high owned. So again, I pay for the DFS pass. I'm going to use that first. Josh Allen, expected 23.6% ownership. Whew. That sounds fantastic for a cash lineup, but quite honestly, that's throwing me off for my GPP lineup. Take a look at Patrick Mahomes. $8,000, so $200 cheaper. Only 4% owned. People really high on the Bills right now, as they should be. But you need to gain some leverage. Patrick Mahomes is going to have to chuck the ball to keep up with the Bills. Hence why Vegas has this as such a high-scoring game. So let's switch that. Let's go Mahomes. Now, like I said, I pay for this. There's a lot of places you can get it for free. Pro Football Focus, I'm not signed in. I do pay for Pro Football Focus, but I'm not signed in. And they give some ownerships for both FanDuel and Draftkings. So you can do that here as well. So if we look for the quarterback, this isn't as nice. They have Josh Allen at 11.4. And again, you're probably like, well, what the hell? Fantasy Footballer said he's going to be 24% owned. This is so much lower. Yeah, it is. And that's why I don't pay so much attention to the number. You find a tool, you stick with the tool, and then kind of group them together into high owned, medium owned, low owned, super low owned. That's kind of the way to do it. Because everyone has their own models. None of them are going to be 100% accurate. It's just never going to happen. That's why I like kind of the grouping method. So they're still telling me that they think Josh Allen is going to be higher owned than Mahomes, which is somewhere 6.8. So they think he's going to be about twice as owned as they think Josh Allen is going to be twice as owned than Patrick Mahomes. That's all I care about. Again, chunk it into high, medium, low, ultra low. And again, these aren't the only places to get these ownership lineups or ownership percentage predictions. Just Google around. You'll be able to find it. And again, do not take the numbers verbatim. Please group it up as like, oh, these are going to be super high on, all that good stuff. All right, so we have our quarterback. What do we talk about? We always have to stack them with a pass catcher. So we got a few options here. I would love to get Travis Kelce stacked with Mahomes, but I bet that's very expensive. $7,800. So that is pricey. I also want to know how owned Kelce's going to be. Not that high. 4.2%. Why? He's expensive. Higbee, he's cheap. People are going to take him. He's been doing well. Makes complete sense. So Again, paying attention to the ownership here, that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to get my initial stack here with Travis Kelce. Now, what do I do next? Well, usually I like doing the bring back, and that also checks the box for the game stack. And this is expected to be the highest scoring game of the week. So let's get a Buffalo player in here. I'm just going to filter out everyone. Oh, God. And only have Buffalo. So Stephon Diggs. I would love to have Stephon Diggs in my lineup. That boy's too expensive. $8,400. That brings me down to $4,300 per player. We haven't done the defense, so that's likely going to bump it up a little bit once we put that in there. But still, Diggs is very expensive. So let's take a look at the expected ownership. I bet he's up there. Yeah, third highest projected own, 18.8. That's a shame. What about another Buffalo wide receiver? So Diggs, Isaiah McKenzie, only 2% owned. He's coming back from a concussion. Slot guy for Josh Allen. $5,000. Gabe Davis, monster game. I'm a little weary of him possibly being only 1.9% owned. I feel like he's going to be a little higher than that after that monster game. I understand the targets weren't there, all that good stuff. But he's still a little pricey. So I'm actually going to go with Isaiah McKenzie. But let's pay attention to practice reports, injury reports, all that good stuff. Make sure he's actually going to play. So I'm going to pop out Diggs here. And I'm going to pop in Isaiah McKenzie for the time being. Cool. So we're hitting those trends. We have the pass catcher stack with the quarterback, Mahomes and Kelce. Bring back stack with Isaiah McKenzie on the Bills. What else can we do here? Max one running back per game. Yep, we'll do that. Low owned player. So we want to find a player that's going to be super low owned, and we may have already hit that according to these projections. 2% owned, that checks that box. Tight end, even Kelce, that's pretty close. Again, we don't know exactly where that's going to be, but that's pretty close. But I think Isaiah McKenzie checks that box. So now we can start building out this lineup a bit more. And how do we want to do that? Well, I want to go and maybe get in some players from another game, the Cardinals-Seahawks game. So let's see what that looks like. If I go to the Cardinals-Seahawks game, give me both of those boxes, uncheck Buffalo. Hollywood, $7,200, high-scoring game. Gets a ton of targets per game. So let's check out his game log. Double digits in every game since week 2. Obviously, the salary keeps going up because he's doing very well. Let's check out his ownership percentage. Rondale Moore is the highest owned. That's pretty wild. He's super cheap, but he could be involved. Where is Hollywood? Down here, 9.1% owned. We hit our low owned percentage already, so I'm pretty fine with that. $7,200 might be a little expensive, but let's see how it plays out. So I got that. If we want to do another game stack, now we go and take a Seattle player. Metcalf is here at $6,800. That's a little pricey. Lockett's been quietly good. 30 points. Double-digit points in every game except week 1. He does have a hamstring issue, so something to pay attention to. But for right now, $5,600 for Tyler Lockett in a game that I think is going to go back and forth, popping him in there. That's an easy one. Now, from here out, it gets a little tricky, right? Because for running backs, you usually got to pay up a little bit, but the trends right now for 2022 are you want to not pay up as much for the running back. So currently have $4,100 per player. Let's get a defense in here just to bring that up a little bit, get a little bit more of a realistic per player salary. And I usually screw the whole way down. Panthers against the Rams. Rams give up the most points to a defense. Stafford looks awful. Easy. I bet they're super high owned. They have to be. Yeah, 19%. So again, it's okay to get a little chalky. We saw it with that one millionaire maker. They had Jacksonville in there who put up a goose, but they were high owned, so it didn't really kill them. We can do the same here. Cheap defense, completely fine. So now it says we have 4,666 per player. We can kind of play around with that a little bit. Let's look at some cheaper running backs. Kenneth Walker might be a good one to throw in there. Super cheap. He's now the starting running back. I would imagine he's pretty high owned. Yeah, second highest owned. So maybe we fade that. Some other cheap running backs that might actually put up some points. Michael Carter, he got some touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, but only 10 attempts for 21 yards, so touchdown dependent there. Travis Etienne against the Colts. They might be behind it this game, and he has to catch some balls. And Draftkings is full point PPR, so Etienne might be a nice throw in there. He's pretty cheap as well. At $5,000, again, that we'll have to go and search for some lower owned players if we do that, but that's kind of to be expected. Here we go. Eno Benjamin. Expected to start this week. This gives us another stack with Hollywood. Now, normally, I only like taking one player per team unless it's with my main stack. But Eno might be too cheap to pass on, and he's probably high owned. It's actually a lot cheaper than I expected. So you know what? We can do that. I'm pretty, just because of the price mostly, I'm okay with that. Let's throw him in there. And then that way, there's a little bit of fading against Kenneth Walker. Other guys, Matt Breida. No. I was thinking of Raheem Mostert because they're both old San Francisco running backs. Jalen Warren's look good. Tough matchup. Najee's still going to be there getting the volume, sadly. I love Najee, but he's such a tough week for him. DJ Dallas is a little bit interesting. How much work did he get? He got 1 attempt and one reception. Man, he looks fucking nuts in this photo. That's on purpose. All right, he's a silly dude. I like it. DJ Dallas might be a way to fade Kenneth Walker. What if Kenneth Walker comes out and sucks? I don't expect that, really, but it's a possibility. So that's a way to gain some leverage. Yeah, it's very hard to pay down at the running back position. J.K. Dobbins is a starting running back. He's cheap. It's fair to be afraid of playing him because he's going to need a touchdown. But, I mean, we did that ownership, or the projected team score. They're expected to score, 25 points. That's pretty good. Who's going to get those touchdowns? Well, if Bateman's out, it's going to be Andrews and, Lamar. But JK could have his chances here. So let's look at the ownership percentage there for him. People are probably afraid to play him. Yeah, super low owned. 1.9%. Projected. That's key there. Dalvin Cook also super low owned here. He's expensive, but that would be interesting. Clyde is 6,300. We might have to do some maneuvering if we put Clyde in there. But Clyde's going to score. He always scores. I guess except last game. But he got opportunities. 4 targets, 9 attempts. Against Tampa Bay, which was a very close, high-scoring game. He had 19 attempts. Only 2 targets. Probably why people are off him and scared to play him. But you can stack him with Mahomes as well. Get a double stack. That might be interesting. But Buffalo's defensive line is very good, so maybe you stay off him as well. Jeff Wilson should have a great game. Where are you at? He's probably high. 11.2. We checked our box for the low-owned players. He might be a little pricey, so let's put him in there for now and see what we can do. 3,200 left for a flex position. Yikes, I don't think that's going to happen. We're going to have to do some maneuvering. Jamal Agnew, yeah. No. Nope, can't do it, my friends, so we're going to have to play around with this a little bit more. Kelsey's super expensive. Do I want the double of Hollywood and Eno? Eno's super cheap. So I'll take Eno out. I'll take Jeff Wilson out. Let's see if we can find a cheap wide receiver, and then we'll worry about the running backs. Alec Pierce. That's an interesting one. He's been getting a bunch of targets. Last game he got 9 targets, 8 receptions, 80 yards, 81 yards rather, 80 the week before. He's getting more work. That might be a good cheap option. MVS, if we wanted to double stack here. Is MVS pretty high owned? Wide receiver. 8.4. Nah. Let's go a little lower. Where's Alec? Is he? Yeah, he's even higher owned. Damn. Let's see here. Juju's a little too expensive. Duvernay. No. Slayton. I don't really want any Giants receivers. Russell Gage is interesting. The Steelers secondary always sucks, and here we are again. So what's he cost? 4,300. Oh, that's Alec Pierce. Gage is 4,400. 6 points. Meh. He has a hamstring issue as well. I don't really want to mess with that. Let's you know what? Let's do it. Let's double stack with MVS. How'd he do the last few games? 15 points, 8 targets, 5 targets. He's getting the targets, so that's fair. Let's try it. Let's try a double stack. Now we're back at the running backs. So paying down. Okay, now maybe we can get Eno. Yeah, Eno's too cheap to pass up. Very high owned, but we got to grab him. Now we got 4,900 left. Man, I don't like any of these guys. We might have to move it around again. Where's okay, Kenneth Walker's too expensive. Let's see here. What can we do? Yeah, we might have to get rid of Hollywood. A little pricey. That's a shame. But we got Eno. They are favored in that game. Well, that's just sometimes how it goes. So now we have a lot more dollar per player. And again, we're gonna make 19 more lineups. I'm not gonna record me making 19 more lineups, but I can guarantee I'll have Hollywood in likely more than a few of those lineups. So let's see what we can do now. Let's get a running back in here. 66,000. Oh, Najee. I can't do it, buddy. A lot of people on Ramondre. If we look at this, he's going to be the highest owned. 36% projection. So I think he'll be a great cash lineup game where you don't worry about ownership percentages, but I can't do that here. What I can do, Breece Hall is interesting. He's high owned, not nearly as high owned as Ramondre. We already got our low owned guys, so I feel pretty okay with that. All right, Breece, get in there. Now we have 6,300 left to spend at the wide receiver position. If I want to spend it all, I'm going to spend it on T. Higgins. However, I don't think he's playing. He burned me. He burned me last game. So quite honestly, I think I'm staying away from T. Higgins here. Rookie quarterback for the Dolphins. That's going to be scary. Amari Cooper, I kind of like. He gets to work. Is he expected high owned? Cooper. 3.1. All right, so that's like a medium to low. I'll do that. I'll put Cooper in here. But now I got $400 left. And I was telling you this whole time to spend it all. So let's find some ways to spend it. All right, if we don't do Eno, what do we get? We have $5,000. Ingram, ETN, Carter. Do I want any of those guys over Eno? No. So pop him back. Brees. Can I have a more expensive running back that I like more? Jeff Wilson Jr. Ooh, I do like him. I like that one a lot, actually. I think that's it. I think that's the move. It's going to be high owned, but that's okay. Get some cheaper running backs in here. Guaranteed work. Low owned Isaiah McKenzie. Lower owned Cooper. Where's Lockett? What's Lockett at? DK's the high owned Seattle guy. Oh, Lockett is the highest owned. Shit. 29.6%. Damn it. Man, I was liking this. All right, if we don't play Lockett, what do we got? I don't think there's a better option. Olave. I like Olave. Dalton's going to be starting. Olave. Where you at? There you are. Super low owned. Gimme. Keep an eye on the injury report, so this may change. Practice limited. Data protocol. Olave will have a chance to play even if he doesn't. All right, keep an eye on that, but for right now, I'm popping in Chris Olave. I got $100 left. So that's okay. That's okay, but I do want to spend it all just to hit those trends that we were seeing. So let's go back. Olave put in. Not going to move Kelsey. What about MVS? Would I want to replace him with anyone else? Marvin Jones, nope. Pickens. I like Pickens. Tampa Bay's a tough matchup, but he should get those targets. Is he going to be lower owned as well? Pretty low owned, 2.5 projected. That's scary. They're going to have to throw the ball. He's the only guy I trust in this matchup. Over MVS, where I would be doing the stack. They're not expected to score a lot of points. Where's MVS? MVS a little higher on. Let's take that risk. It's the kind of things you have to do in these tournaments. You have to go for these lower-owned guys, hope they go off. But that will do it. I hope that made sense. And let me just kind of walk through the trends we went through here just to make sure I'm pounding that in your head. So first thing, team stack, basically the QB pass catcher stack. We'll check both those boxes. We did that. We got Mahomes. We got Kelsey. Awesome. QB bring back, not always required, but this is going to be a high-scoring matchup. I think it is worth it. We got Isaiah McKenzie. Keep an eye on that, but he should be coming back. All right, so game stack, did we do that? Arizona, Seattle, nope, we took that out. San Francisco, do I have any Atlantas? Nope. Cincinnati, New Orleans, nope. Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, no. So didn't hit that one, but that's okay. That isn't one of the required ones, as you have kind of seen here. See, second place, 150 grand. He didn't do it. Bring back, yep, we did that with Isaiah McKenzie. Running back defense stack, we took the Panthers. I I don't have enough money to put in CMC, so not doing that one. That, again, I'm not really into that one anyways. Max 1 running back per game. Eno and Jeff Wilson, they're not in the same game. Cool. Low-owned player. Yeah, we did that with a few. Pickens, McKenzie, I think Olave counted as well, or expected to. Yes. So we got a few in there. You don't want to usually overdo it with those low-owned players because then, the hit rate of those guys are obviously low because that's why they're low-owned. So don't overdo it. Like 1 or 2, probably pretty good. No players versus a defense. I do not have any Rams. Well, very cool. Appreciate. That'll do it. Appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this. I hope it was informative. Really, the first chunk of this video is what is super important. How I constructed this lineup is just showing those trends that we talked about in the beginning in action. But what I talked about at the beginning, that can be applied across the board on FanDuel, on Draftkings, where I play, Yahoo, wherever you do any GPP style tournaments. That is the trends that will matter. So again, appreciate it. Let me know if you have any questions. You can throw it in the comments here. Also, be sure to check out our podcast, Sleeping with the Numbers, where we do sports betting talks. We pick every game. You can find that at sleepingwiththenumbers.com. We are also on Anchor. We're really everywhere you want to look at podcasts. So Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the above, Spotify. So anchor.fm/SWTN, and you'll find where we are at. Please subscribe to the channel for more stuff like this. We do puppy picks where our dogs make picks for the primetime games, and they're usually way better at picking the games than we are. So go ahead and check that out. I'm going to update my entry here, and we will see you next time.